Before we get started with the video, I'd quickly like to announce that I've partnered up with Fanatics. Since hockey season is starting, now is the perfect time to get geared up with some merch. Therefore, if you're wanting to support your favorite team, you can also support me in the process by clicking the link provided below. And now onto the video. It seems like almost every year around this time, there's a player or two that are still holding out due to contract disputes. However, it's pretty rare that a player outright refuses to play for his team and/or walks completely away without resolve. Meaning that when this has happened, it's often resulted in teams trading away the player, or even worse, have had to void the contract entirely. In this video, we're going to take a look at a select number of players who, for various reasons, walked away from their team abruptly. And with that, here are 4 NHL players who flat out abandoned their teams. Selected by Washington 13th overall, Alex Semin was recognized by NHL scouts due to his speed, smooth skating, and puck handling abilities. And really, for a while, the forward was able to live up to the expectations placed upon him while playing for the Capitals. Throughout the 2009-2010 campaign, for instance, Semin able to net 40 goals impressively. Due to the newly integrated system implemented by coach Dale Hunter, the player who had once thrived under Bruce Boudreau was struggling to acclimate. Semin from there decided to sign a 1-year deal with Carolina on a trial basis, and after having a rather productive point-per-game season while playing with Eric Stahl, Semin was given an extension. Unfortunately though, soon after, he began to really regress. By the 2014-15 season, his shooting percentage had become less than half of what it was during his time with Washington. The Hurricanes, who had prematurely signed Semin to a 5-year, $35 million contract, were forced to buy out the remainder of his deal. Therefore, the notion opened up an opportunity for Semin to sign with Montreal. Well, in case the disaster in Carolina wasn't enough, Semin's short tenure as a Hab didn't go so well either. After being scratched and only notching 4 points in 15 games played, Semin was put on waivers thereafter. However, even though he was supposed to report to Montreal's AHL team, he refused to do so. Instead, Semin then took his remaining talents overseas to the KHL instead. Thankfully though, for Montreal, unlike Carolina, the contract they had given Semin was a low-risk 1-year deal valued at only $1.1 million. Probably the most complicated and confusing situation on this list, the curious case of Dustin Byfuglien, is one that was dragged out for quite some time. For the sake of some context, we'll be going back to the 2018-19 season. Byfuglien had missed around half the season's play due to ankle injuries, but made sure that he was back in time for postseason proceedings. After making an early playoff exit amid a series loss against the St. Louis Blues, Byfuglien, just like the rest of the team, underwent an end-of-the-year physical. Following the procedure, team doctors and staff signed off on the conclusion that the defenseman was indeed fit to play. Byfuglien didn't dispute this at all. Instead, he went about his offseason as if everything was as normal as it could be. However, he claims he didn't realize his ankle was still injured until he skated on it in preparation for training camp. Instead of reporting for his rehab schedule, Byfuglien opted out of involving himself at all with the team and instead eventually sought out surgery elsewhere for his injury. After many remained skeptical as to whether or not he would return, it was revealed in April of 2020 that Byfuglien's contract was finally terminated. As both sides, Byfuglien and the Jets, agreed to a mutual termination. Even still, there's several question marks around the situation regarding his departure. One is the strange timeline surrounding his injury, and secondly, Byfuglien, who, according to the Sportsnet article I'll reference, wasn't okay with the state of the Jets locker room at all. It's known that Patrick Laine and Blake Wheeler did have conflict, and Mark Scheifele was somehow involved. Therefore, this could have been a convenient exit strategy on his part, as many before and after Byfuglien also have bolted from Manitoba when they've had the chance. Either way, even after receiving surgery and recovering, Byfuglien made no attempts to return to the ice and left his team with a huge hole in the back end. As far as the present day is concerned, he still never officially announced his retirement, despite the fact that his contract is and has been non-existent. After being a staple in Atlanta for around a decade, Ilya Kovalchuk voiced his desire to move on from the Thrashers organization, and in result was traded to New Jersey mid-season in 2010. The former first overall pick was a welcomed addition to the lineup in the Garden State. GM Lou Lamoriello was eager to give his newly acquired player the financial incentive needed for him to hopefully remain with the team. The first attempt at a lengthy deal of 17 years, valued at $101 million, was immediately rejected by the league, and due to what the league saw as cap circumvention, the Devils were made to pay a $3 million penalty and to surrender a first and third overall pick in result. But the second time around was a success, as the Devils and Kovalchuk were able to settle on the term of 15 years instead and a value of $100 million. Unfortunately though, he wouldn't even come close to playing the full contract out at all. Following a trip to the Stanley Cup Finals with the team in 2012, not long after, Kovalchuk, at 30 years of age, formally announced his retirement from the NHL, while stating that the main reason was to remain in Russia and spend time with his family, which he could have done, but Kovalchuk had other plans. Instead of trying to play out the contract or simply retire and relocate, Kovalchuk decided to resume play in the KHL instead. This didn't exactly sit well with Devils fans. One good thing that did come about, however, due to the premature exit of Kovalchuk was that the Devils did get a first-round selection in 2014. However, instead of selecting somewhere close to the 14th, Lamoriello was given the 30th selection instead. Therefore, looking back today, it's possible that the Devils could have selected Dylan Larkin or David Pastrnak, which would have changed things dramatically. Known as an agile skater with tremendous hands and playmaking abilities, Jonathan Drouin began to really showcase his talent while playing in the QMJHL. And after having 2 100-point-plus seasons in the league, Drouin was later drafted 3rd overall by Tampa in 2013. After returning for one more season of junior hockey, Drouin made his NHL debut against Edmonton in October of 2014. However, it seemed like things from there didn't move fast enough for Drouin's liking, meaning that despite the fact that he was a rookie and on his entry-level contract, he felt that he wasn't given the opportunities he deserved, as it's rather common for first-round picks to have to pay their dues per se and earn their playing time. Alexis Lafreniere is a perfect example of this. Even though he was the first overall selection, he's, for most of his career so far, been playing third-line minutes. However, for Drouin, this type of system was unacceptable. Drouin, according to an article from the Hockey News, for instance, remembered the fact that head coach John Cooper decided to play Black Ace Jonathan Marchessault over him during the postseason of 2015. He also was given bottom 6 minutes as well for his first couple of seasons. Therefore, since he wasn't receiving playing time and responsibility to his liking, Drouin requested a trade in November of 2015 prior to his entry-level deal concluding. Some GMs, though, didn't find this fact enticing. Ducks GM at the time, Bob Murray, had this to say: "There's more than just him that's probably out there and available right now. We know he's there, but there's a few others out there too that haven't requested trades." Requesting trades on entry level, that's something new for you and I. Entry level players requesting trades, amazing, he says. And to give Tampa some motivation to deal him, in January of 2016, Drouin refused to report to an AHL game in which he was supposed to be playing in. Due to his actions, Drouin was suspended indefinitely without pay by the team. Now, we're definitely not denying the fact that there's always two sides to every story here, and obviously, hockey is a business. But regardless today, looking back years later, Drouin still hasn't been able to take that next step in his career while playing for the Montreal Canadiens. Therefore, it's hard to tell how and if he would have acclimated to playing within the Lightning's top 6 in the past and the present.